85592, 85596, 85597. In this review we're looking at 3 models by Diecast Masters, and they are of Caterpillar mini excavators. Each model comes in the same style of outer shipping carton and is a nylon bag protecting a tin. Let's remove the bag from the first tin and see what model it is. And this one is the Cat 309CR. As usual, the tin is very high quality and nicely decorated, and there are details of the real machine printed on the back. Off with the lid, and the first thing we find is the usual mini brochure of Caterpillar models by Diecast Masters, and this one is the 2018 version. Then there's a single sheet which tells the operator how to get into the cab, and during shipping the operator travels in the upper deck. There's also a tool which you can use if you don't want to get your hands dirty and touch the operator. After that it's stick your fingers in and pull the black foam out. I said pull the black foam out. Thank you. There we can see the model in the bottom, including the tools that you can fit to it. Another model we're going to look at in this review is the Cat 308CR, and that is a very similar model to the 309. And the third model we're going to look at is the Cat 301.7CR. The required assembly for all 3 models is essentially the same, and that involves fitting the operator and a tool. For the 308 and 309 you take the roof of the cab off and fit the operator in, and that can be a little bit of effort because it's quite a tight fit. On the small 301.7 there's no roof to take off because it's got an open cab. Then we add a tool on, and for this we're going to choose a simple bucket, and it's a simple quick fit of hook over and then clip on. The 308 and 309 are very similar, with the difference being the undercarriage, and the 309 on the right has got longer tracks, and the dozing blade is controlled by 2 hydraulic rams rather than the one on the 308. Beyond that, the detailing of the upper structure is essentially the same. The cab structure is fairly simple. There's a plastic mirror and no windscreen wiper. The tracks are rubber and there are tiny graphics on the track frames, and the blade also has some wear plates. At the back there's a sharp cat logo, and the panels are nicely detailed. There's a plastic mirror on top of the engine and more nice sharp graphics on the side, and there's also a plastic grab rail. The boom and stick hydraulics are on the simple side with no hoses, but the connection rivets are reasonably well disguised, and there are tiny graphics on the stick. The small metal bucket is nice enough. The 301.7 is altogether a much smaller machine. Although it is smaller, the detail level is similar. There are rubber tracks and graphics on the track frames, and the graphics on the body are nice and sharp. The cab roof and its supports are made of metal, and it's good to see a textured floor in the cab. Again, the hydraulics are quite simple with no hydraulic hoses, and the hydraulic rams are perhaps a little oversized. The connection rivets are painted and the small bucket is nice enough, and looking at the back there's nice graphics and other highlighting. The functionality of the 308 and 309 is effectively the same, and starting with the rubber tracks, they can be made to roll as long as you apply downward pressure. The dozing blade can be raised and lowered, and the whole machine rotates smoothly enough. One interesting feature of the real machine is that you can rotate the boom on its mounting point, and some moderate movement can be achieved. In terms of the functionality of the boom and stick, then for normal digging the range of movement seems to be a bit less than the real machine would achieve. But the hydraulic rams have a reasonable stiffness, so they'll hold any pose you set. Here we're checking the digging depth of the 308 and 309, and it's fair and the same on both machines, but on the real machine the boom can go much lower. The 308 comes with other tools including a grading bucket, and there's also a nice auger, with the auger part being plastic, and that's because it would be very expensive to die cast. Also included with the 308 model is a hydraulic hammer. The 309 also comes with additional tools, and that includes the grading bucket and the auger, but it's also got a different part which is something from the logging industry, and that has a nice moving part inside. Here's the tiny 301.7, and it's very difficult to get the crawler tracks to roll by pushing the model along. But if you do manhandle the model, you can roll the tracks by hand. And here you can see that they can be rotated. The little dozing blade is slightly odd because there's no upward movement, but there's a lot of downward movement. On we go to swinging around, and that works reasonably well on this small model. And on this machine you can also vary the angle of the boom, and so that gives you some different posing opportunities. It is a very small model, and in part that has resulted in a compromise in terms of the movement of the boom and stick. The boom certainly can't be raised high enough, and the ability to move the stick and the bucket is also compromised. For digging at depth, the story is the same as with the other minis, and it seems that the boom just can't get down low enough. But on the plus side, this model does have some other tools, and that includes a grading bucket, and there's also a tiny hydraulic hammer. These three models from Diecast Masters are, as usual, beautifully presented, and they have some reasonable detailing. Some of the functionality is a little bit compromised in the small size of these models, but on the plus side there's flexibility because of the additional tools. All things considered, there's just enough for them to be considered very good.